Hello, TheSecretVault here. Just doing a quick video to talk about the recent bat and ball that seems to be going on. You know, I need to make a statement that will perhaps help some people that seem to be, very incapable for whatever reason of understanding basic concepts like, you know, right and wrong, possibly, which is alarming. What you can and can't say on public platforms like YouTube or possibly in real life. In fact, I think definitely in real life. Okay, there's some things you can say, there's some things you can't say. Okay, I'm not going to list them all, but I'm just going to list one specific category. Okay, now things get said back and forth. I'm a big boy. You want to slag me off, that's fine. You want to call me ugly, old, gay, whatever. There's some things a little bit above that I would probably get a little bit pissed off. Like if you want to sort of start using those sorts of rhetoric, I probably would report those to the police, and have had to do so in the past. There's also other things. This is specific. Threatening the use of violence, stabbings, murderings, bombings. These are all things that are unacceptable to think or say. They are rather alarming when you hear them being said, and unfortunately, I'm sorry if it upsets anyone that seems to think it's okay to use that sort of speech, because I believe, and I think society believes, it is not. And I do not think it's appropriate for YouTube. In fact, I think it breaks their terms and conditions. Okay. If you're going to record yourself on a YouTube stream saying, I am going to come round and stab you, I am going to come round and murder you, I am going to use a gun, albeit not a high-powered one, and shoot someone, which have all been said in these persons' live streams, I hope they can understand that once you cross that line, of ribbing, like joking and ribbing and taking the piss. Once you start crossing that line, you are in slightly dangerous territory, because I, like anyone else who watches that stream, probably would feel inclined to either report it to YouTube at the very least, and if they're probably a concerned citizen, would probably report it to the police, which I have had to do for a number of people over the years. I find it very boring. It takes up my time. I don't really want to have to do it, but unfortunately when people are saying those words, you just don't know whether or not they could, at some point in the future, try and do one of those things. It's a warning, isn't it? And when we hear warnings of terrorists, isn't it rather sad that we hear then later on down the line they went and did exactly what they were talking about previously? And this is where some people I think don't understand that, you can say some things and you can't say other things. Well, unless of course you want to be questioned by the police. And I'll give you another example, right? Because there seems to be a lot of anger and resentment over certain types of activity which myself and other people have had to engage in, such as blocking people. Okay, so that they understand how this works and the thought processes behind it, I will try and break it down. Now, I'm sorry if I'm boring everyone with this, because most people will understand this, most people will get this. They don't even have to have me to tell them this, but I think some people maybe don't understand it. So I'm going to explain it in very simplistic terms, so hopefully it will get in there. Okay, and I'm going to use an alternate example so that hopefully they don't feel offended that they think it's a direct statement to them. Let me give you another alternate example which might highlight and illustrate the point. Let's imagine a man walks into a pub. Ha ha ha. Yes, it's going to be one of those jokes, but it maybe isn't very funny. A man walks into a pub, goes up to the bar, starts pointing his finger at the bar staff and telling them to do one, and and what's going to happen to them, and he's going to do them. Yeah, right. Man gets asked to leave by the bar staff. Man refuses to leave. Man still keeps shouting obscenities and threats at people in the bar. This gets everyone upset in the bar. Everyone who's in the bar now feels uncomfortable, and it suddenly becomes a place that people no longer want to be. So security get involved. They remove the man from the pub. They say, don't come back. The person's name is put on a list. They are barred from coming back into the pub. The person then goes into another pub and does exactly the same thing. And on the next day, the person goes into another pub and does exactly the same thing. And on the next day, they go into a nightclub and they do exactly the same thing. So they're pretty much now getting known by all the security. They're getting known by all the owners of the pubs. And they're getting told that their behaviour is unacceptable. But this is angering this person and making this person very upset. So now the person starts making threats to the security and saying, no, anyone who blocks me is bullying me. Anyone who blocks me is restricting my freedom, my rights to go and do what I want to do. And they have rightly to say, well, if you're going to threaten us, we have to report you to the police. Okay? And then the police get involved and ask this person why they feel it necessary to go in causing these sorts of problems. Now, obviously, I think many of you are going to know what I'm talking about here. And I'm really sorry for being very, very patronising in the fact that I have to put it this way. But unfortunately, when people come into channels where people are moderators, and those moderators have experience with these people in the past, think of the moderators like security guards. It is their job to stop people in these channels getting upset. It is the job of the moderators to stop trouble before it starts and nip it in the bud if it does start. And one of the easiest ways with problematic people to stop this happening is to block them, to stop them coming in, because then the problems don't start. So unfortunately, this is being interpreted as bullying by the people that would rather be allowed the freedom to come where and when they want. However, the said same people seem to be very keen to find out where the security guards are they don't like, and where the people are in that channel they don't like, and follow them from channel to channel to channel. And when they get blocked, then they start putting on disguises, changing their names so they can come back in again. And then they're surprised and angered when they're blocked again, once that is found out. Okay, so these people are then crying and saying that this is bullying and that this needs to be reported to the police because they're having their rights restricted. I would argue these people have had enough chances, and the people that are looking after these channels don't want to have you there. You're not welcome. And although that might be painful to hear, you have to understand that people do have a right to say no, and people have the right to say enough is enough and we've heard enough of this. So there you go. I'm not going to bore you with any more of this. It is very boring, it's very patronising, but I just think that some people don't get it. Okay? And all I would plead with the people is that if they are going to continue to broadcast and do things, that they maybe think about restricting the types of speech they are using, because it is a red flag and it probably will get addressed by the police and possibly elsewhere. You know, people are going to be worried by those types of words, and if they're keeping on being repeated, it becomes more and more of a worry that the person will not stop using certain types of speech which are threatening to life. And I mean, just because they got blocked, they are talking about stabbing people and using guns. It's a bit extreme, and I think they just need to take a good cold hard look at themselves and realize that there are some things you can say and there are some things you can't say. Okay? And as far as I'm concerned, and the other people who are in these channels are concerned, we don't want that. Okay? We don't want that in those channels. It's also being bandied around now that people are wrong for posting articles which have appeared in newspapers, right? So because they contain imagery and text relating to these people, and that this is somehow wrong. So it's wrong for the people who are simply reposting a very highly public piece of material which has appeared in a newspaper. That's wrong. Again, if you don't want people reposting newspaper articles where you have appeared, then maybe you should be thinking about not being in newspaper articles, because it's public. It's publicly available. You know, what more can I say? You know, if somebody posts something from somebody's channel where they've said something and they repost it, well, it was broadcast, so what do you expect? You know, if you don't want people to post things that you have said and done, or then maybe you should think about not saying them or doing them. I mean, really? Do I have to explain this? But there we go. There we go. Unfortunately, yet again, things have been said. Unfortunately, yet again, reports are going to have to be made. I would urge these people not to be silly, and I would urge these people to restrict themselves, reel in the neck, reel in the bravado, and reel in the comments, because pretty soon they cease to be what is known as flippant comments said in the heat of the moment, and they start to become a systematic mode of behavior which may indicate something deeper going on, and that is alarming and distressing to others, and that does constitute something that has to be reported, unfortunately. So I hate to have to make it patently obvious, but there's already been one incident that's happened recently involving physical violence, which had to be reported to the police. Okay? And this is not, none of this is very clever. None of this is very clever behavior, and I would I would say from rather interesting, let's put it like that, rather interesting people. Let's just leave it at that. Okay, so the concerns for safety with some of these people are real. Okay, and I don't for 1 minute believe that we can just leave this. We can just leave this to go with the types of behaviours that have been exhibited by people recently. Yes. So anytime these sorts of things are said or suggested, they will be noted and reported. So I hope you understand. Maybe you need to think before speaking. Learn to control and zip this for your own benefit, and if you're going to continue to do it, I'm sorry, but I don't think it's necessarily good for YouTube. It's not necessarily good for your own position. So do not please misunderstand why people are reporting you for it. It is because you cannot say those things. You can't threaten to kill people. End of. You know, you can't threaten people, and you definitely can't threaten to kill and stab and shoot people. Think about it, please. That being said, I hope these people get either the help or the advice they need from people that are much more suited and much more ready to deal with this than I am. So, thanks for watching.